Welcome back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where we show you how to build a successful business and to have a life too. We're going to dive into another topic that helps us make more money in less time and to get off the treadmill so we can experience a life of significance. And now, your host and the author of the #1 best-selling business book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, Chuck Blakeman.
Today, I want to address some important realities around the 7 stages of business ownership. In the last 2 podcasts, we experienced moving through the 7 stages of business ownership. In this podcast, I'll share some blinding flashes of the obvious, or what we call BFOs, that thousands of business owners, including me, have learned over the past few decades about how to apply these stages in the real world. And a reminder, this is not the 7 stages of a business. I could give a rat's rent about your business, except for how it impacts you. This is the 7 stages of business ownership, where we put your business in the context of how it's hindering or helping you build your ideal lifestyle in support of a life of significance, however you define that for yourself. We'll have a future podcast on how to arrive at your unique, clear vision for your life of significance, or what we call your big why. Look for that in the next couple months. But for now, let's quickly look at a few of the really important learnings around the 7 stages of business ownership and how that works for us in the real world. First, there's no timeline for building a mature business. I've seen business owners take their business from stage 1 startup to stage 6 significance in 2 years. I've also known way too many who are stuck in between stage 3 subsistence and stage 4 stability for 20 years. There's no timeline for moving through the stages, but this is the important learning here. The more intentional you are about getting through them, the faster it can happen, and likely will happen almost without exception. I can't tell you how many clients we've had who were stuck in stage 4 for a decade and a half or longer and attained real freedom in stage 6 in 18 months or less once they became intentional about doing so. I'll say it again, you get what you intend, not what you hope for. So intend to get there fast and embrace whatever journey you face to get there. The second blinding flash of the obvious, the second BFO, is that no business is ever neatly all in one stage of business ownership. Life is messy, and so is business, but you still get to choose what maturity looks like to you, even if your business ownership is strung out across 2 or 3 stages. My business ownership is strung out across stages 5, 6, and 7, and I like it that way. I find great personal meaning and fulfillment in being directly involved with clients, continuing to speak around the world, and continuing to write and develop things that will help other business owners avoid the mistakes I've made. I want to continue to bring to others the principles, practices, and tools I have found that work over the years. So I will do stage 5 production. But remember, freedom is the ability to choose what to do with my time and my money. I get to choose to do work with clients and also speak and write. I don't have to do these things. I get to, and I choose to. That's freedom. A good chunk of my 2 present businesses are in stage 6 significance. We have some stage 6 leadership in charge who need very little, if any, guidance on how to get things done. I get more involved in the vision for where we're going. I'm not the only one who gives guidance, but I enjoy training and mentoring others and helping them grow. And a lot of our business functions in stage 7 with Mark Balestri, our chief dot connector. Yep, that's his title. Basically makes everything run better than I did when I was running it all. I learn about a lot of things after they happen, or sometimes not at all, because Mark is competent and fully in charge. I've seen a lot of things I used to make the decisions on being taken on by others. I've even been fired from meetings I started because I was in the way. I'm pretty sure our staff loves me being involved in stage 5 production activities with clients, keynotes, and workshops, because it keeps me farther away from the day-to-day and out of their hair. And as our companies grow, I continue to work to be less and less involved in running things and focus on what I can do to add value that I'm passionate about. Working with clients, speaking and writing, which everybody agrees is the highest and best use of my time and talents. But I don't want a fully stage 7 succession company where I'm just the myth. Everybody gets to decide for themselves, and that's my preference. Becoming the myth works for many, but not for me. We will always have a business where my responsibilities are stretched across stages 5, 6, and 7. You need to decide for yourself what you want, start with your end in mind, and decide what you want and intend to make that happen. Another learning around the 7 stages of business ownership is that no business owner ever arrives at a desired stage and just settles neatly into that specific stage. Again, life and business are messy, And as a result, every business will cycle up and down regularly through 2 or 3 stages, but from my experience, rarely 4. So, what are the implications of cycling up and down between the stages? The reality of this, it can be highly motivating to making us want to get to stage 5 success or beyond. If you're shooting for stage 5, your relationship to your business will bounce around between stage 4 stability, where you're making money, but heavily involved again for a short time, and back to 5, sometimes hitting 6, and sometimes dropping back to stage 3 subsistence, where you're breaking even. The good news is that if you've been intentional about a simple strategic plan and freedom mapping your involvement, and we'll have podcasts shortly on both of those critical building blocks, you'll find that getting back to your desired stage is no longer the extended struggle it used to be. Setbacks happen, but since you've been there before, you will almost always panic less and recover much more quickly because you've built the mental and, more importantly, the emotional muscles to handle obstacles with curiosity. Another learning around the 7 stages that I have experienced over the years is that the farther up the stages you decide to stop, the less likely you are to experience business survival issues in the future. Every business will cycle around the stages like a roller coaster. And as a result, stage 4 stability is not your friend. Stage 4 stability may provide great profit for a time, but in stage 4, your business isn't stable enough to avoid cycling back to stage 3 subsistence or even stage 2 survival on a regular basis. And in stage 2, you're losing money again. It's not where any of us wants to go, even for a short period. But if you stop at stage 4 stability, while you're profitable but still a hostage to your business in regard to your time, you could spend 30 years cycling between stage 4 stability and stage 2 survival as treadmill guy. This is another reason why stage 4 is so exhausting over the long haul. But a stage 5 business is more likely to cycle less broadly, usually moving from 5 to 4 and sometimes hitting 3 before you can pull it back up to 5. In stage 6, it gets even more interesting. A stage 6 business will cycle even less, 6-5, 6-5, and sometimes back to 4, where you're still making money, but you're heavily involved in the business again for a short time while you get things sorted out. And a stage 7 business is affected even less by cycling. In stage 7 succession, your business will rarely cycle below stage 5, where you're involved in giving guidance and maybe some production, but you're not a hostage to the business again. And more importantly, my experience is that in stage 6 or 7 business ownership, you will almost always cycle down for a much shorter period than a stage 4 owner, who can cycle down to stage 2 survival for prolonged periods. So the long and short of it is that the more mature your relationship to your business is, meaning the less day-to-day involvement you have, the less you will be jerked around by outside forces. So all this begs the obvious question: would you rather cycle back to stage 4 stability, where you're still profitable but have to produce again for a few months, or all the way back to stage 2 survival, where both you and the business are in survival mode? The farther up the stages your business ownership settles, the less pain you will experience on the downside as your business regularly cycles back and forth through a few stages. I hope that understanding this cycling process helps motivate you as to why taking measured risks to embrace the big mindset shift and get across the chasm from stage 4 to stage 5 or beyond is really worth it. By now, you've probably also figured out that the difficulty of the 7 stages of business ownership is that moving from one stage to the next almost always requires risking money or time, many times both, which we illustrated in the podcast on the first 4 stages using the roller coaster treadmill illustration. The climb from stage 1 start to stage 3 subsistence is one long cliff face with no breaks. We're in stage 2 survival almost the whole time, and we either keep climbing or rappel down and quit. Once we finally get to stage 4 stability, we have something to lose. We're making money, and in some cases, a lot of it. And we're realizing that taking the measured risk required to get to stage 5 success seems a little daunting. By stage 4, we are tired of risk. Even though the voice of quiet desperation in stage 4 is whispering, "Is that all there is?" We weigh what we have with the possibility of losing it and come to the following conclusion sometimes: the pain I know is better than the pain I have yet to experience. This is a sad reality for most business owners. We're willing to settle for being hostages to our business the rest of our lives because we don't want to risk what we already have to get something much better. So we stay stuck in stage 4 for 30 years until at the end we sell the business for its assets and its customer list. What we haven't realized is that at every new stage, the risks are usually smarter and of shorter duration. And if we'll just keep pushing forward, we will build our mental and emotional muscles for dealing with them. Richard Branson's salary doesn't go down during recessions. Think like Richard. Get out of production and build a business machine that will more likely allow you to cycle from stage 6 or 7 to stage 4, not from stage 4 to stage 2 survival. Let's finish up the 7 stages by talking briefly about how to take measured risks. Dealing with risk is actually quite simple. It's just not easy. Refer back to the roller coaster treadmill illustration from an earlier podcast. The key is to start with a very clear idea of where you are going, utter clarity about what it looks like when you get there, and when you expect to be there. And then make sure that the picture is motivating enough for you to push through to the finish line. If you have that clarity, then the following question becomes really helpful regarding risk. Are you making decisions based on where you are or on where you want to be? Because if you're making them based on where you are, where do you think you'll be next year? It could just be Groundhog Year all over again. We need to know what we want when we're done so we can make decisions based on where we will end up. It's really simple. And I admit that doesn't make it easy. But the more clarity you have about where you're going, the easier it will be to take the measured risk to make long-term decisions instead of short ones. And I personally prefer measured risks, not crazy risks. Some people are energized by the all-in, lose everything or gain everything risk. I tend to default to risks where I'm slightly scared and know I'm going to have to really hustle, but the objective looks promising if I just give it everything I've got. If you're not a little bit scared, you might want to take more risk. If you're terrified, you might want to pull back unless you're an adrenaline junkie. And more importantly, if the only person who will get hurt if it all caves in is you. So the important thing in taking risk is clarity, which gives us hope, which allows us to take the measured risk. Clarity, hope, and risk. Do you know what your business and your personal life will look like at maturity? Do you have that clarity? Do you know when you want to be there? Most of us have never thought about these things, but if you do, it could be the most motivating planning work you've ever done. And each stage will seem shorter and less risky because you've got a clear picture of your great future, and that picture in front of you is very compelling. We are always more motivated running towards something than running away from something. The tyranny of the urgent will lose its shrill voice and its grip on you as you focus on running toward the priority of the important. A last thought around risk. Imagine trying to keep 11 ping pong balls under the water with only your 10 fingers. You're never done because every time you get the last one submerged, another pops to the surface. Remember, life and therefore business is like managing these 11 ping pong balls. It's messy and it's uncertain. Here's the simple solution. Being willing to let a few urgent ping pong balls get away today to build a business that can hold thousands of ping pong balls under the water without you using any of your own fingers tomorrow. I know Jim Collins said good is the enemy of great. That can be true, but it's also true that great is actually the enemy of good enough. Let a few short-term ping pong balls get away. Start with good enough, or you'll never make it to great. It isn't about getting it all right up front. It's about getting moving and figuring it out as you go. Remember, planning doesn't create movement. Movement creates the plan. All right, one final thought. A good principle to keep in mind as you move through the 7 stages is to be what I call ambitiously lazy. Work hard now so that you can work less later. I am definitely ambitiously lazy and proud of it, and it has worked well for a lot of other business owners too. Work hard now with the goal of not having to work so hard sometime soon. So let's all be ambitiously lazy and commit to the big mindset shift, which is to stop making money and to build a business that makes money when you are not there. Pushing through the 7 stages of business ownership is how we can all make more money in less time and get off the treadmill and use our business to build a life of significance in support of our lifetime goals. Keep going.
That wraps up another episode of the Get Off the Treadmill podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and hit the like button to ensure you are receiving the latest tools you need to grow your business and to get off the treadmill. If you want more information on the 3 to 5 Club, the Crankset Group, or to book Chuck as a business advisor, speaker, or workshop leader, you can contact us at grow@cranksetgroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.